Watch this.
Summer is the season for rodeos in Idaho, but the off-season is the time to work on next year. The Caldwell Night Rodeo, they're busy working on the future, and they could use some help in completing their $7.5 million improvements. The legislature, well, that's a winter season sport. And while the session is right around the corner, lawmakers are already getting a real head start on some artificial hot topics.
And then the concluding heavyweight final is up to Big Ed Sanders.
Sure, there was a renewed interest in heavyweight fights over the weekend, but Idaho has its own big connection to boxing, thanks to Big Ed Sanders. We'll introduce you to the Bengals' big man. "100 years ago, Caldwell's cavalry unit needed $18,000 to build suitable stables for their horses. So why not use other horses and bulls to pay for it? And the Caldwell Gymkhana and Rodeo was born. Fair weather made for a first-year success, with 1,500 people showing up at the Armory grounds that first day. This year the Caldwell Night Rodeo celebrates 100 years of Western sports. And this past summer, when we showed you that story, we took you through the rodeo's century-old history. And at the end of that story that day, we mentioned how the rodeo is looking forward to the future, to the next 100 years, by adding $7.5 million of improvements. Well, that project, it started today with the help of some tractors. But as Aspen Shumpert found out, they could use your help as well to finish the rest.
The Caldwell Night Rodeo grounds are where more than 30,000 people watch bucking and riding each August.
We are the rodeo we are today because of our fans and the support of the community.
Professional barrel racer Megan McLeod-Sprague says Caldwell's like no other.
I can truly say this as somebody who competes everywhere from the Rodeo Houston, which is the biggest rodeo in the United States. Caldwell, hands down, has the most electric atmosphere of any rodeo we go to all year.
Former Governor Butch Otter also competed here back in the day and says the rodeo is in his DNA.
This is my hometown, and you get 100 years of that, you got a pretty good legacy. And that's what we're trying to do, is start building a legacy for the next 100 years.
1, 2, 3.
Now, with the rodeo looking ahead, they're making some changes.
Today is a very historic day here at the Caldwell Night Rodeo grounds.
They kicked off a $7.5 million improvements project on Monday.
As we grow as a society, we need to continue growing the rodeo, and we want to continue to support them from years on out.
And with some of the money already raised, they said goodbye to a piece of history on Monday, when the decades-old announcer stand came down.
We've heard complaints of that one. It was 105 2 years ago. It was hot. Oh my gosh, it was hot.
A new one will soon go up. And with enough funds, they'll add more than 20 skyboxes, which is a design with their neighbor in mind.
We will make those skyboxes double-sided. So we are very, we want to support our partners, the College of Idaho, the Canyon County Fair. And so that is designed specifically to enhance the football experience for the College of Idaho.
And more updates are planned for the core's corner sections of the rodeo.
It's about enhancing the fan experience, providing more seats. We are a growing rodeo. We sell out most nights now. And so when we have more seating, we know we have to grow as our fan base grows.
Each night they can hold 7,000 fans, but the project will give them an extra 500 seats on the grounds.
We'll need every single seat.
And to Megan, who's competed on the rodeo grounds the last 25 years, the growth is a good sign.
To know that our industry is still expanding and growing, and to watch it happen in my backyard, it means everything to me. What we do is so hard, the blood, sweat, and tears, the hours we put in, and to be able to come to your hometown rodeo and have that electric feeling and know that you're supported by so many people it truly is an amazing feeling.
They've already raised about $3.5 million for the project, which is how they were able to start demolition today. The project will be happening in phases during each off-season of the rodeo. President Lodge says they hope to have everything done and ready for the public to enjoy for Rodeo 2028. Moving forward with the fundraising efforts, the city says they're actually going to match what the rodeo raises up to $1.6 million that they're taking from their general fund. So the city is also making a financial investment in the future of the rodeo.
Two questions. Next summer, what are they going to use for an announcer stand?
They tell me they'll have a new announcer stand up and running by then. So it's
temporarily. It'll be a temporary.
Yeah.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah. And before this, with the skyboxes that you see go up on the rodeo, those are also temporary and come down.
Okay.
So these new skyboxes are what's going to be there permanently for the next 100 years.
Second question, who came up with the idea of the hard hat, cowboy hat combination?
I think a little bit of everyone on the rodeo board, as many people were wearing them today, and it was a topic of conversation.
Classic. All right, thank you very much, Aspen. You know, Idaho can't seem to separate itself from the San Jose State women's volleyball saga. Now, with Gem State lawmakers stepping onto the controversy carousel, today, all 4 members of our congressional delegation joined 9 other senators and representatives by signing on to a letter sent to the Mountain West Conference. Citing serious safety concerns, Title IX, and fair competition, they want the conference to update their athlete guidelines to keep transgender females from competing on women's teams. They say the Mountain West Conference is failing to create an environment that allows women to compete without fearing for their safety. The 13 who signed on are all from states who have schools that have forfeited against San Jose State this season. That would be Nevada, Wyoming, Idaho, and Utah. They allege the Spartans have a transgender athlete on the women's volleyball team, yet nothing has been confirmed by either San Jose State or the Mountain West Conference. The letter cites the NAIA, who has banned transgender women in sports, and ends with, clearly the Mountain West Conference has dropped the ball. Life isn't fair, but sports should be. However, a letter to the Mountain West might be a bit misguided. Yes, several D.C. lawmakers have already sent a letter to the NCAA, but until they do something, there's really not much the membership schools can do. The NCAA is a club, and universities choose to join it as club members. And if they do, as a member, they have to follow all the rules. So it just kind of goes top down. The transgender policy followed by the Mountain West was adopted by the NCAA many years ago and updated 2 years ago. And that policy now defers to the national governing body of each sport when it comes to eligibility. In this case, they follow the USA volleyball policy, which bases qualifications on testosterone levels and frequent testing of that. There's a more conservative approach, this one is, by the NCAA, which previously allowed transgender athletes to play in any sport. So we will see what another strongly worded letter might do, and that might explain the lawsuits to get the courts involved. Speaking of which, we mentioned the lawsuit last week filed by a dozen former and current Mountain West players and coaches, including 2 Boise State players and a Wyoming player from the Treasure Valley. In that lawsuit, the San Jose State assistant coach claimed there was a secret meeting between the San Jose State player at the center of this controversy and a Colorado State player the night before their match in October. The coach claimed a game plan was exchanged between the 2 players with the intent to hurt the other San Jose State player who outed the alleged transgender player. Well, the Mountain West just concluded that investigation into that allegation, and they told us today there's insufficient evidence to back up these claims of collusion between players. So no one will be disciplined, and the matter is now closed. Boise State was supposed to play San Jose State in Boise on November 21st, but the team has already forfeited that match. As for what awaits teams at the conference tournament next week in Las Vegas, we'll just have to wait and see. Well, there's no question artificial intelligence is here to stay. The question is how to navigate in it and around it. It'll likely be part of the discussion for the 68th legislature when they convene in January. There was some dipping of toes into the topic last go round, but you could clearly see a lack of knowledge and understanding of AI when it was brought up. You know, algorithms and stuff. So to get a head start on the session and catch up on the concept, several lawmakers met at the Capitol today. And Joe Paris joins us, and I'm guessing they kind of want to look, well, I guess uninformed about AI.
Yeah, they have a lot to dig into, and the more you hear them talk about it, the more you wonder, is AI just going to end up in every conversation that they have down at the State House? But yeah, a new group of lawmakers are part of a brand new committee, the Artificial Intelligence Working Group, and the group is working to research and learn about AI, the interaction with Idaho law, and what they need to get on top of. And their first session included multiple experts on the topic, a chance for lawmakers to ask direct questions and hopefully learn. And lawmakers really for the first time dove into AI this year, passing 3 laws on the topic, criminalizing AI child porn, deepfakes in electioneering, and using AI media to annoy, terrify, threaten, intimidate, harass, etc. So pretty specific, but lawmakers already realize this topic of AI has a massive footprint.
I've noted down, maybe 20 different areas we could go to, from education, criminal justice, business, legal, elections, data sets, all sorts of things.
This is, of course, something that will permeate almost every corner of policy I think the state will face in coming years and decades.
So lawmakers are aware of AI in some areas it touches, but experts like Brad Frazier, a partner at Hawley Troxell in Boise, he's an attorney who focuses on intellectual issues. He put even more depth onto their radar, like the concept of AI and things like NDA agreements and trade secrets.
We would add a provision to our NDA that says you must not disclose what I've disclosed to you to an AI. In addition to disclosure, we might proactively contemplate how to protect Idaho businesses by not accidentally giving away a trade secret, by entering a prompt into an AI.
So the game has changed. Companies like Micron that call Idaho home, they have major trade secrets and NDAs that are a big time of the corporate world. And things are just, evolving. It's not just a few things, though, that lawmakers will look at in terms of AI. This will be a long process. And something that I am interested to see how it plays out, Brian, is the AI experts that presented to lawmakers, they did caution lawmakers about doubling up on the law. For example, if you commit a crime of robbery and you use AI, there's no reason to have a second crime for robbery committed with AI. So while there is like a whole new footprint that lawmakers will have to dive into, it's also going to be something where lawmakers need to be careful not to duplicate already existing law.
My question is, when it comes to this NDA stuff, are there companies or people out there really putting secret information into, say, ChatGPT and putting it out there for everybody to have access to?
The answer is yes, and they may not even realize what they're doing. There are a lot of internal documents that end up just, let's see what ChatGPT would do with this. There may be a misunderstanding for some companies, not all, but some, that when you put information into these AI programs, it includes it in its full algorithm. For example, I know some specific businesses have just built their own AI.
Okay. Well, let's keep that in mind, not doubling up on laws that already exist when we go into this session's legislature. Thanks, Joe.
Sanders, a seaman recruit at the San Diego Training Center, has steamrollered all opposition so far.
And the gold medal match was less steamroll and more roll over. The first black heavyweight Olympic champ once poked around Pocatello. We're going to share Big Ed Sanders' story next. This is the time to remind you to share your story or to comment about the stories we've talked about here on the 208. Text us, 208-321-5614. As always, please do include your name and the hashtag the 208. That way we can share yours at the end of today's show. All right, if you are of a certain age, there was a time when the name Mike Tyson would generate millions of dollars from those willing to put up for a pay-per-view fight. And that match would usually last mere seconds, sometimes minutes maybe, but mostly in seconds. Tyson had 6 fights that lasted less than a minute, by the way, and you're thinking, I paid how much for what? Well, Iron Mike made it one more trip into the ring as we headed into this weekend. This one lasting the full 8 rounds against Jake Paul. Maybe you saw it, because a lot of people did. In case you missed it on Netflix, not many did. 60 million households watched, and the most money wagered in years on a single fight. Tyson, by the way, lost to Paul by unanimous decision. Not much of a fight, many people saying. Didn't last or didn't impress them very much. By the way, before the bout, Idaho State University, they got in on this hype, saying they wanted to honor a true trailblazer. Hayes Edward, Big Ed Sanders, the first black heavyweight Olympic gold medalist. His legacy shattered barriers and forever changed the sport of boxing, they posted their Facebook page, saying we take immense pride in his groundbreaking journey from Bengal boxer to Olympic glory to shaping sports history. We were actually reminded of this over the summer when we were celebrating Alyssa Mendoza, Idaho's first female Olympic boxer. Steve in Meridian texted us to say, hey, you know what? In 1952, Idaho State College sent a kid named Spiderweb to Finland to compete on the USA Olympic boxing team. So that's another Idaho connection to the Olympics. Back then, we were saying Alyssa was the first boxer to come out of Idaho to go to the Olympics, but that's not true. So we look back into it, I should say, in July, and we learned a lot about Idaho State College boxing, now Idaho State University. How it was a big deal and one of the foundational sports of Idaho State and their all-around coach, Milton "Dubby" Holt. Ellsworth Spiderweb, yes, he did go to the Helsinki Games out of Idaho State in 1952. But so did Big Ed Sanders, the track and field and football star from Watts, California, whose short time in Pocatello was only eclipsed by his Olympic glory, but also by his shortened life because of boxing.
By the end of the 1940s, college boxing was undisputed in its ability to draw a crowd, even here in the Pacific Northwest, where the University of Idaho won 3 national titles, the last in 1950. That year, in the other corner of the state, Idaho State College was compiling quite the team itself. That's when legendary Bengal boxing coach Dubby Holt saw Hayes Edward Sanders fight in Utah. Coach Holt quickly recruited the 6'4" fighter to Pocatello. Big Ed, they called him, already the 2-time junior champion, beat the Pacific Coast heavyweight champion in his first fight at Idaho State and never lost a dual meet that first year. But by 1951, with the Korean conflict calling, Big Ed left Idaho State College and joined the Navy, not wanting to be drafted into the Army. On the Navy boxing team, Sanders continued to hone his skills in the sweet science.
The official opening of the 1952 Olympics takes place in Helsinki Stadium.
So much so, when the 1952 Olympics rolled around, Big Ed qualified as a heavyweight while fighting with a broken hand. Getting to the games would prove to be his toughest test because in Helsinki, Ed knocked out his first 3 opponents.
And then the concluding heavyweight final is up to Big Ed Sanders.
And his reputation must have preceded him because in the gold medal match against the Swede,
now he meets Ingemar Johansson of Sweden.
The fight wasn't much of one.
Johansson hugs those ropes, then he hugs Sanders.
The ref had had enough of Johansson just moving around the ring, calling it 3 minutes into the second round.
Finally, Johansson is disqualified for not trying.
But Big Ed Sanders would stand on top of the podium, becoming the first black heavyweight Olympic champion.
Well, he sort of refused to fight. He was mostly running. He wouldn't stand up and fight against you at all. No.
Post-Olympics, Big Ed turned pro, and his career took him to the Northeast. On December 11th, 1954, Big Ed fought his sparring partner for the New England Heavyweight Championship. The 12-round slugfest would be his last, getting knocked to the canvas in the 11th and carried out on a stretcher. Big Ed Sanders would die 19 hours later from a brain injury. His old Idaho State coach called it a tragedy, and Coach Holt called Big Ed a fine athlete, a gentleman, and a credit to the community.
Big Ed was just 24 years old when he died. He did meet his wife in Pocatello, the sister of the man who apparently picked him up at the train station in Pocatello. Big Ed and Mary LaRue had a son, Russell, which is why Big Ed wanted to go pro so badly. He wanted to support his family. Big Ed was inducted into the Idaho State College, now University, Hall of Fame in 1959. Do you ever think there could be more public meetings about parking meters? Well, the city of Caldwell is going to talk about theirs again. This time, though, possible solutions. Here's Hunter Funk with today's 411.
The Owyhee County Sheriff's Office needs your help finding 2 suspects in a burglary at the M&W Market in Marsing. Surveillance cameras caught the suspects in the act early in the morning on November 13th. So if you have any information, call 208-495-1154. All those tips are confidential.
Just get some more practice before that first snowfall.
Ada County Highway District is rehearsed and ready to go for winter. They did a no snow call or a dry run for snowy weather last week. Supervisors called in 150 truck operators at 2 in the morning to load up de-icer and sand into the trucks and plows to make sure they're ready for when the snowflakes do start sticking. The Caldwell parking saga isn't over yet. At 6 tonight, Caldwell City Council is meeting to talk about the future of parking. City Council member Diana Register put together a parking committee made up of business owners and residents. They will present their suggestions at tonight's meeting. They're suggesting timed but free parking, similar to what was done before the meters, with unlimited time limits in city lots and no overnight parking. Register said she doesn't expect any decisions tonight. And that's the 411 on the 208. I'm Hunter Funk.
Well, no snow down to Treasure Valley floors this morning, but you can see it sure came close. That snow line creeping closer, or lower and lower, I should say, down the foothills. It's only 39 degrees in Boise right now with a west wind at 6 miles per hour, making it feel more like it's the low 30s. This is as warm as we got today. 43 was our high in Boise, 42 for Mountain Home, mid 40s in Twin Falls, 36 was all it hit in Jerome today. We've had a few light showers out there. We've had rain, snow, and a little bit of grapple at times as well, which is like the Dippin' Dots or those soft snow pellets that come down. We're still seeing a few light showers moving from west to east across the region, but for the most part, dry weather has been the exception, not the rule today, and that will likely be the case tomorrow as well. Maybe a few lingering snow flurries in some spots, but the big headline for tomorrow morning, as skies clear tonight, will be the cold temperatures. Look at these overnight lows. Single digits expected Tuesday morning for Stanley and Haley. We will be into the 20s across the entire Snake Plain. So if you're heading out early, don't let the sunshine in the morning deceive you. It's going to be a very cold start to our day. And once again, temperatures will only hit the low to mid 40s across the Treasure and Magic Valleys. Winds should be lighter tomorrow, but they will ramp right back up as we do have another system taking aim at our region. It comes in on Wednesday, a rainy day Thursday, then rain chances off and on every single day through next Monday. High temperatures will hit the 50s Friday and Saturday before colder weather comes back in, takes us back down to the 40s for the end of the weekend and into early next week.
All right, we got a couple comments today about artificial intelligence, what it is, what it's used for, good and bad. And I think a lot of people may still be not confused, but also just kind of limiting themselves to thinking that artificial intelligence is just kind of what they create or use to create like deep fakes and movie scenes that, you know, are a little hard to do in regular shooting, but that's not all it is. AI also is like helps you autofill when you're looking up something online. Try that, that's what it does. But there's this tinge to this that it's a negative thing all the time, but it's not. And I also had this one question that somebody sent in and says, Brian, was that a tinge of sarcasm I heard when it comes to doubling up on laws in Idaho? Because they're talking about creating AI laws as well as regular laws. And yeah, I guess it was, because you can say that happens a few times at the Idaho legislature. We'll see if it happens again in January.
Continue with us and watch free now on the KTVB Plus app everywhere you stream.